Hi everyone, this is Michael and Robin Finkelstein from Sunraven, the home of slow medicine. And this is our first Instagram Live here during the season of COVID and social injustice. But it's also Lyme season here in the Northeast, and in fact, Lyme disease is an epidemic. Frankly, when you consider the fact that it's now all over the world and hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people are not only infected every day, but that many wind up with a chronic syndrome that is extremely difficult for them in their life, and is one of those things that, conventionally speaking, from a conventional medical point of view, while for some people who get a simple tick bite and a simple rash, they may get a decent response, if not a complete response, from conventional medical treatment, like a course of antibiotics. In fact, when I went to medical school and graduated in 1986, that's close to when the syndrome of Lyme was first recognized in Lyme, Connecticut in the 1970s. And I was seeing my first cases, I recall, in the emergency room at Lenox Hill Hospital. And the treatment, of course, was antibiotics, whether it was amoxicillin or doxycycline. Many people got well and easily, but there were people with a chronic syndrome that was hard to explain. People were calling it chronic fatigue syndrome back then. And conventional doctors, and I was one of them at the time, had a party Lyme response to it, which is it's an infectious disease. The treatment, therefore, is obviously an antibiotic. And if you don't respond properly, the way you're supposed to, then there's something else wrong with you. It's not necessarily Lyme disease. A lot of people were considered to have psycho-emotional problems as a primary problem, as opposed to perhaps the secondary component of a neurological or autonomic nervous system symptom complex as a result of the infection. But in any event, I remember practicing conventionally and being stubborn, like many physicians remain, which is that this is a simple infection, antibiotics are the answer, that there are blood tests to help you understand it. And it took a long time. Not only did I go back to school to study integrative and holistic medicine, which was a big help for me to understand the broader issues that relate to Lyme disease and how people get sick, but the chronicity of Lyme disease and the intense complications and the factors that really go into it and the other conditions, the environmental conditions, the other infections, the personal health of people who had this other syndrome, this chronic syndrome, really was not revealed to me in full until Robin, my wife, life partner, professional partner, became one of those people who had an obvious chronic Lyme disease syndrome. And through her persistence, because of her commitment to healing in non-toxic ways, her persistence to identify those approaches and those individuals who really understood Lyme disease allowed me to witness not only her recovery, but the intense need for better understanding for all of us on how we deal with something like Lyme disease, and how we, through what we can then learn and understand, how we can target and really recreate our own approach. It fits perfectly well with slow medicine. Slow medicine really, in a nutshell, is the way we understand our life, our physical condition, but also our mental, emotional, and psycho-spiritual states, because it all bears into one place, which is our being, how we are right now. And it does require that we look at all the details of our life, because healing occurs best when we align a lot of variables. Sometimes our body, as I was saying at the beginning, when it comes to a simple infection, recovers really simply with a simple approach. And that's great. And that's one of the best things that Western medicine offers us. When there is a crisis in our life, our lives get saved, we survive until tomorrow. That never happened before, given all the amazing technology that we have at our fingertips now, so we can survive acute life-threatening phenomena. But the chronic stuff is best understood by a step-by-step approach like slow medicine, which breaks down all the variables that go into why somebody doesn't heal simply. And Lyme disease is an epidemic these days that is revealing to us the imperative for not just Lyme disease, but for a lot of conditions to be explored with this level of understanding. So if it wasn't for Robin, I might have gotten halfway there in terms of a better understanding. But the fact is that your incredible devotion to not just yourself, but to the principles of living life in a wholesome way and proving to yourself and to other people you love and care for and your own professional work with people is to demonstrate by modeling a particular behavior that there is a way to do this. Now, that said, it's not simple and it's not quick. Slow medicine, as it implies, doesn't only suggest that we live our fullest life when we take it slow and we really enjoy and immerse ourselves fully in the moment, but that when it comes to things when they're not working, that we break it down and appreciate that for recovery, for healing, the methodical approach takes some time. And for people who think that, I just want to take a pill, swallow a couple of pills, maybe a couple of vitamins, and I'll change my diet and I'll be fine, well, that could work for some people too. I'm not saying don't try that. But if you're listening to this right now because you're one of those people or know one of those people who've tried that and they're not feeling as well as possible, then this is what we want to share with you today. We really want you to understand what it might take to really pull things back into alignment so that you can recover from this condition. Robin, do you want to say some stuff about what you went through?
Yeah, thank you. Yes, it was quite devastating. I was just thinking back because I actually am right now in recovery. So just reflecting back of what I actually had gone through. And it was really a big pause in my life and our lives. Literally where I could not function and I could not be in everyday activities the way one would like to be. So it was, I'm just sitting here reflecting, it was a big accomplishment. And today, right now, I have my Cystis T here, that it is something that is ongoing. So what Michael, what you were saying, it's not in one pill, it's not in one herb, it's a whole, holistic lifestyle devotion. And I think that's the most important thing. And I want to give people hope and faith that we actually, I'm an example of that I have recovered. And a lot of people actually still even think that you don't recover from Lyme disease because of the complexity of the process.
Yeah. So let's maybe go into a little bit what Robin experienced, which is going to resemble what other people experience. And I say resemble because everyone's an individual. And the fact is the infection, the Lyme organism, might be the same as an example. Two people get bitten by a tick, they get injected with the same bacterium, and they have two completely different syndromes. It's true of almost every infection. It's true of almost every medical condition. Two people can have a heart attack. Yeah, an artery is blocked in their heart, territories in their heart die, they complain, but have completely different manifestation. 1/3 of people will die right away. 2/3 of people will survive and have varying subsequent experiences. We call it a heart attack, but that doesn't mean it's the same. Two people have COVID these days, somebody doesn't even know it, and somebody is on a ventilator. So what's different is not the infection, obviously. It's what happens once the infection is experienced in the body. And therefore, to begin a real understanding of how you're going to heal requires understanding what's going on in your body right now. And we start really looking at that in detail, on a cellular level, on the extracellular matrix level, meaning the space between the cells, which includes the electrolytes and minerals and heavy metals and toxicity of other forms and other infections you've had and your own genetics everything else. When you add up all those things, it's actually quite a lot to consider. And then when you think about your life itself, the stress you're experiencing, which is unique to each person, your own sort of human potential, your karma, when you put that all together, and the environment you live in, how much electromagnetic radiation are you experiencing, and how much mold is in your environment, and what's the quality of the air you're breathing and the water that you're drinking, it doesn't start with what's wrong with me in terms of what's the name of the infection, and I'll look it up in a textbook and I'll give you the antibiotic. That's what Western medicine does. Again, that could work occasionally. So you might start there, fine. But if it doesn't solve the problem, then it really requires that you do a very thorough analysis of what's going on in your system. That's now your body, your mind, your emotions, and your psychospiritual being. And that's what Robin and I do. And so when we work together, let's say in this process we call an immersion, where somebody would see us over 12 weeks, alternating more or less, where you get a physical, evaluation, and you get some physical things to do, but you also think about what's on your mind and the level of stress and your existential questions and how that fits into harmony in your life. That gets you into a place where you're now maybe going to identify the variables that can be improved. Because the truth is, some people can get bitten by a tick and be injected with Lyme and they don't get sick. So you want to be one of those people who may have gotten sick, but you want to heal, like Robin said, by getting your body into that type of shape where even if you have an infection, your body can handle it. What I've also learned, though, and I think this needs to be stated, is Lyme disease is not simply one bacterial organism. Chronic Lyme is not one bacterial organism. In general, when a tick bites a human being, there are many other organisms that are injected into your body at the same time. In addition, you probably have, and this may sound gross, but at any time, trillions of organisms, some of which have infectious potentials, living with you right now. You've also already accumulated toxic material through your course of your life that has created a level of dysfunction on your cells and in the extracellular matrix and in organs, like your immune system in general, your nervous system. And so you're already half there with a tendency to becoming sick. Maybe you just need one more straw to break the camel's back. But when you're infected by the bite of a tick, you're infected with many things, or previous infections are reactivated. And so when people have chronic Lyme, in general, on average, they probably have 5 or 10 other co-infections. Now that sounds like a lot. A lot of physicians, a conventional physician listening to me right now, as I would have if I was listening to myself years ago, I would say, Michael, that's really not true. There's no evidence for that. There's no this and that. People who talk about this are quacks. I no longer believe that. In fact, I believe very sincerely, and I think there is a great deal of evidence to suggest that there's multiple organisms at play. There's multiple toxic elements in your system already that make a difference. And therefore, the way to treat Lyme disease is to get your immune system in shape. In part, that's doing things that promote a healthy immune system, certain nutrients, vitamins, minerals, lifestyle, stress reduction. But then there's elimination of what the toxic material has already accumulated in your body. That needs to be done. And then you also maybe need some antimicrobial, things that actually kill organisms, support. That's I would say, a 3-tiered approach. And that's what's necessary. Part of that then is you have to look at your lifestyle. You have to look at yourself in the mirror and you have to deal with some of your habits. From what you eat, what you like to eat, what you say you like to eat, to what you drink and the other substances you use for relaxation. I get it. You need to do all those things. But there are times in our lives when we need to look at ourselves carefully and be honest. Because if we truly want to heal, we may need to get ourselves out of our own way. And that doesn't mean it's easy to do that, to break those habits. That's where Robin's work comes in, which is, some of the resistance we have to making those changes because we think we need them. We need to eat ice cream after dinner every night because we need that sweetness, or we need to have a glass of wine because we need to relax, or we need to do X, Y, or Z, and we need to stay in that toxic job and the toxic relationship because we need this type of love, this type of support, this type of money. I get it. This is not easy. But you need some professional support, I think, to figure out not only what can be done, but how to do it. And then when you get started, the support you need, because things come up, resistance, denial, all those things come up. And the way through this is to get that level of support. And to start off with a really complete evaluation of what's going on in your physical system, your emotional system, your psychospiritual system, as I've mentioned. We know more than we used to about things like supplements and food, but the principal practices are what we do here in almost all conditions, which we help people look at themselves and take an inventory and say, how am I doing in this place and that place? And try to make the corrections, because when enough corrections are made, we get to this very positive tipping point, which was now maybe our body can start working better, doing the things it could have done years ago when we got bit for the first time, which is to not get that sick. But now that we are chronically ill, we need to examine it even more carefully. And it's not a quick fix, it is slow medicine.
I like to think of it as an upgrade, and letting go of the things that don't serve us. And truly, as hard as it was going through this, having to say no to myself meant that I could say yes now, and I can say that I feel better, literally better than I ever have in my adult life. And it's exactly what Michael's sharing about. It's a layered system. So, and that's toxins and things that I wasn't even aware of. That heavy metals that I had still remaining mercury fillings in my mouth were actually keeping me at sort of a plateau, a place where I couldn't get to the next level because of the bugs and how they feed off of negativity. Anything that's negativity in the body, it truly, sadly, but it does thrive in that environment. So mind, body, spirit, the whole, looking at our lives in every way. That's Michael's sharing about the emotional and habits that we have. And having support, I think for me, going through it was the most important thing.
Yeah, I think this is very hard to do on your own. In fact, what we see is, people might be motivated, really ready to make some changes in their life, but they're living with other people who have certain needs and have expectations. So let's say you decide, you want to change your way of eating, approaching food. Yet you're living with other people, and let's say you're one of the people who's the caretaker of the others, and they're rebelling against your decisions to remove certain foods from the house or focus on others. And, that's a predicament. So this is, the type of treatment or approaches that are really valuable for people, not going to be typically found in a book, because somebody has to understand your particular living situation to give you good recommendations that will help you deal with the realities of your life. There's some chronic, common themes in a lot of good books written on any of these subjects. But in the end, very often people, like Robin said, need guidance, not just support. The support emotionally, just to stay with it, to how to communicate with your family and other people. Those are helpful, really helpful. But then there's this other support. We just, if you have Lyme disease, you're already tired. You're already weak. You're already fed up. So to get to a point where you then are being asked to persevere through a process that might be months or years requires incredible patience and persistence. One of the things I admire most about Robin is, she was working through all of this, and she had family commitments, and she was continuing to function as best as she could, even though she was exhausted and could, for a period of time like months, couldn't even really leave her bedroom. The fact is, it takes a lot of help to really do this. Now, a lot of people don't necessarily trust that they have that, but the first thing, rather than just assume that, because there's a lot of things we can do, is ask the question, what can I do? And there's a lot of answers to that. There's a lot of things you can do that help this. It may not be a complete list. It may not be something you can do 100% on the first day, even in the first month or year, but you can move in the direction. What most people are experiencing is not only the fatigue, but the depression of not being hopeful that there is an answer.
Not knowing, I think, is really hard for us as human beings. So when we are dealing with this one day at a time with gentleness, because we know when we don't feel well, we're very vulnerable, and with the ongoing support and actually someone like myself who's been through it, so I can truly relate. And then we start to incorporate rituals or actions that you can do that are attainable to you in your life.
Yeah. Just as an aside, on this Instagram Live platform, you could write a question, submit it for us to answer, and we'd be very happy to do that. You just have to type into the comment section anything. We'd be more than happy to answer questions. In fact, sometimes it's questions that help us understand not only what people are thinking about, but where we've not been clear, or even just some practical first steps. I think the most practical first step, frankly, is for you to get in touch with us, because this is, the first engagement then is a commitment to yourself to take a step to do something concrete, and a phone call is concrete.
It's the first step.
And that's a sign that, all right, I'm going to do something I haven't done. I'm also going to look in an area that I haven't necessarily explored. I've looked for the quick fixes. I've gone to conventional doctors and maybe even other traditional, alternative approaches, but I haven't connected some dots, and I haven't put enough of it together, and I haven't dealt enough with myself, my own thoughts. Thoughts have tremendous energy in our body. As an example, I could compliment somebody. I can say, gee, you look great today. And the thought of the person receiving that is, that's a compliment and that feels good. And the body responds with blushing. The face turns red. When you are, complimented, you might blush. Well, that's just a thought in your head that led to arteries in your face dilating, that the redness of the blood flow in your skin is now visible. That's how thought affects the body instantaneously. Now imagine if your thoughts are not as uplifting and they're chronic, and I'm never going to get better. As Robin said, I don't have hope. I'm unsure. This hurts. I'm scared. Those keep going on. Now, what do you think is the manifestation of that? Well, the autonomic nervous system, which is listening to every thought, is saying something here is scary. And when the autonomic nervous system senses something that's frightening, it goes into the fight or flight response, which is the sympathetic nervous system, and that activates things that are inflammatory, suppress your immune system, change how you can digest and assimilate nutrients, affect how you produce and use energy. All these things happen instantaneously, and if it's chronic, then chronically, then you're dealing with more debilitation because the thought loop is feeding that. So it's so important to help yourself by taking positive actions, at least by getting on the path. To us, slow medicine is a path toward healing. It's in fact, when you're done, let's say you get rid of Lyme disease. That would be the best news I think a lot of people who have it could hear. One day I'm going to get better. Maybe it's 3 years from now, but like Robin, but I'm going to get better. There's still this very important question. So now what are you going to do with your life? Why do you want your health so badly? Obviously you want to get out of pain and discomfort. You want to get back on track, but the track to what? So in our work, it's also envisioning right away what's the value of your life and why is it worthy for you to be well, and what's your contribution going to be. And in fact, when you move that forward in your thinking, not just waiting for that to be possible, but you envision it now, that's changes these very powerful thoughts to really affect your body on every level, including your immune system, including how you're going to detox your cells and get rid of things. And of course, then other approaches can be supportive of that and supplemental. So I've got here as a display a bag inside of which are what people often ask us about. Supplements, right? There's a whole bag full of stuff we can give you. We can give you all these supplements. This, by the way, is our tick kit. So best thing to do is actually remove the tick as soon as it bites you and not get sick. So we have that. But the idea of supplements is that when you're sick, that they're supplemental. They support something else you're doing. And the thing you're doing is you're living life in alignment so that all these things over time can get sorted out. And the alignment is toward a particular vision of yourself being healthy and whole, being able to live your dream life. And when you have that in your mind and your energy field more, you're going to find that that's the catalyst for these things to happen. And then the supplements are more effective. Mm-hmm. The antimicrobial supplements are more effective. Your immune system is able to do it also on its own. In the process, when you're speaking to Robin especially, your relationships are going to heal, starting with the relationship with yourself, the relationship with your significant others, your family. These are things that obviously nag us sometimes and get in our way and deplete us. And if we happen to be bitten by a tick that week, well, maybe that's why we get a little bit more sick than others. So there's more to it. There's definitely other things that are needed to be explored for each individual, but that's the sum and substance of what I would say is our approach to healing from Lyme. Is to first understand what it is, how complicated it is. It's not just an infection with one organism. It has a lot to do with what you've already been set up with in terms of your life on every level, mind, body, and spirit. But then it's to not just understand it, but then to take actions to sort of improve many of those variables. It's to get the support that you need. It's to be clear on all of these things, to feel well taken care of, to have your questions answered, because all of us, when we have curiosity, that's one thing which is really important, to just be treated with respect. But as the others, the more sometimes information is really useful for us to visualize why these recommendations are being made, rather than to blindly follow. We blindly follow doctors when they say, hey, take this antibiotic. We have an understanding of the principle, but I know for a fact that most people don't know what those antibiotics are doing in their body. The antibiotic doesn't kill an organism, by the way. Your immune system kills the organism. So the antibiotics support that. They weaken organisms. They do other things, but they won't do it alone, which is why two people can get the right treatment and not respond the same way, because what's the difference is that your whole system, and your whole system is predicated on a better understanding and a little bit more engagement and interfacing with those areas that really matter to how we will be. It's our hope, that people, can share messages like this, because there is more to know, more to understand, and with that understanding, more to do and more success to be had. Robin, do you want to say anything?
No, I was just everything. I think it's really thinking about your immune system, thinking of your body and how you love yourself, how you care for yourself, how you nurture yourself, and especially in these times right now with COVID out there too, it's really would be worthwhile to really look and find gentle support. I think that is the key, gentle support, and it's all you need is just a willingness to be curious, like Michael's saying, and we are here, and we love to share, and we'd love to see you or talk to you, and come visit us, visit our website. We have a beautiful property here. We're now seeing people if you live locally. If not, we can do virtual, and I just want to say, keep the hope alive, because I'm a living example.
Yeah, so our website is slowmedicine.org. Sunraven is where we live, but Slow Medicine, SLOW medicine.org. And we'll be back next week at 12 o'clock. The reason, just as an aside, that we started with Lyme disease is because it's sort of prototypical for what we're experiencing. It's an epidemic of the 21st century. The incidence of cases is alarming, but reflects something about our ecosystem, our more global ecosystem, that is making us susceptible to things like this. And it's an interesting subject. It really is relatable. A lot of people are experiencing it. So in the interim between now and next week, if there's a topic you'd like us to discuss, please share that with us by getting onto our website and sending us an email and letting us know what's on your mind. And we can definitely address more of these types of situations that people find are common, and just keep the dialogue going, because ultimately what we like to think of as, in terms of our home here, which is Sunraven, the home of slow medicine, is to make this a center for connection where people get information, but also more than that, feel part of a community that connects them to principles of living and a vision and a future of our world and our collective human condition that is just much more positive, and that we learn from these things, that we learn and rise above them. So anyway, we wish you a great week, and please send us a note, let us know how we did, and we'll look forward to speaking to you again. Take care.
Take care. Be well.